And Roland here is going to talk about the street market.
All right. Okay, thank you, John, for inviting me to speak here. I'm speaking on the downtown East Side Street Market that happens every Sunday at Pigeon Park. And of course, I want to acknowledge the Coast Salish people, say that this is native territory, and thank them both for giving us the ability to speak here today, and also for the ability to have the market every Sunday at Pigeon Park. The last market, it was yesterday, was our 234th consecutive Sunday. So this is, we believe, is the longest running event in downtown East Side history in terms of event days. If you had an annual event, actually I just calculated it, we would have had to start in 1780. Which is actually before the discovery of Vancouver Island by the British, believe it or not. If it was an annual event, that's how long it goes on. And we have 52 events per year, which is, if it was a festival that lasted for a certain period of time throughout the year, it would go almost 2 months, be like Oktoberfest. So it's a huge festival for downtown Eastside people and very important for all of us, we believe. So this picture was taken in the summertime when the weather was significantly better. You can see children, families walking around, people enjoying the event. You can see all our wonderful tents and tables and stuff like that. And we've worked very hard recently to improve the infrastructure and allow this to be something that really attracts a lot of customers to the downtown East Side, and then allows the low-income vendors to then benefit from that customer traffic. Also, one of the main reasons why we started this market is because we all know that this happens in the downtown East Side anyway. Except the problem is it happens on the sidewalks, outside businesses or outside empty storefronts. And then in the lead up to the Olympics, the only response that the city government had to this kind of survival vending was to ticket the vendors. And this led to an enormous increase in the number of vending tickets, an outcry by the general community, an outcry, a Supreme Court challenge by Pivot, and a cry for a place for these survival vendors to go. And that's why the Pigeon Park Street Market was started. And the picture on the left was taken over the summertime, and it doesn't always clear up this nicely, but it always clears up. And this just shows that the vendors that vend on the East Block, the zero block east of Hastings, would prefer to go here, or sorry, would prefer to go to our market on Sunday. And this is a picture, sort of a collage of any other day of the week, and as we all know, it's packed with survival vendors. And they're still harassed by police, and they're still getting tickets, and people are still going to jail because of getting failures to appear because of these tickets. So the need for this is very strong. I also want to say, too, that there's sort of a perception or a prejudice amongst people in the city or City Hall that don't come down to the market or don't visit the downtown East Side very often. This is somehow a unique problem to the downtown East Side. It's not. There's a large collection of survival vendors in the downtown East Side because of the collection and the concentration of poverty. But this happens all over the city. If you go around, especially in the summertime, this is Carnegie Woodlands Park. Regularly I would pass by and there would be 10 or more vendors set up in the park. This is nearby at Commercial Intent. But if you visit Kitsilano, if you visit the West End, if you visit even places in North End, believe it or not, pear patches of park, people will set up a blanket and will sell goods to make extra money. It's a natural thing to do if you're living in poverty and you're having trouble making rent. And it should be viewed as a natural thing to do, and it should be supported by the city. And because there's such a concentration of this need in the downtown East Side, this shows why we need the street market to be supported and to continue to be an opportunity for low-income people. And also, I like to compare to other regions around the world. Vancouver is, it's not the first city in the world to think of using markets to alleviate poverty and to help low-income people make money on their own terms. This happens all over the world. It's actually generally accepted in other areas around the world. I just picked 3 examples, but there's hundreds of examples. Almost every major city in the world has a large market that has various degrees of regulation or unregulated areas. And all of this, and it represents an opportunity for immigrants, for marginalized groups to come that don't have the ability to get capital, start a store or any other kinds of business. They can come with very little and they can make a few dollars and stabilize their lives and progress. And especially even this one, it's the famous one in Paris. I think it was 20 or 30 years ago where actually this market was pushed out of the downtown of Paris and into the suburbs because the population of Paris started saying things like, oh, it's dirty, oh, there's stolen goods, oh, all these things that the city and the police throw at the street market, they were throwing at this market in Paris. This is one of the biggest tourist draws that Paris has and represents an enormous influx of money from all over France and all over Europe into Paris. And a properly run market, that's what it represents. It helps local businesses, it helps low income vendors, and it attracts tourists. And just to talk a little bit about how far we've come recently with the street market, I can see actually there's a bunch of volunteers that volunteer almost every Sunday at the street market here. We touch a lot of people's lives. We've been running, as I said, for 234 consecutive Sundays. That's over 4 years. We regularly count over 5,000 visitors a day, between 5,000 and 10,000 visitors a day. So it's not a small festival. And it is certainly not something exclusive to people in the downtown east side. It's not just downtown east side people shopping for themselves. It's people from all over the city. In the summertime, we see cruise ship traffic coming in. We see all kinds of different cultures and walks of life enjoying the stuff that's for sale there and just enjoying the community atmosphere, the community mixing and the shopping, outdoor shopping. As an opportunity, not just the ability of between 150 and 200 vendors to set up and make money every Sunday, we also run this market on an exclusively volunteer basis. There's not a single person as part of this operation that receives a salary. And only during a brief period was there ever a period where a person received a salary, and that ended after about 6 months because the operation just couldn't afford it. So each Sunday, there are over 50 separate individual volunteer opportunities for low-income people to come in. And the only requirement is that they come to a meeting Saturday morning, sign up, and then they get to work the next day. 50 separate volunteer opportunities. And actually I counted recently, I think there's about 14 separate types of jobs that you can work your way up through. You start as a marshal or a guard, either preventing sales in a certain area or picking up trash around the market, enforcing market rules, and then you can work your way up. You can join the tent crew, and the tent crew boss is sitting right over there, that's Max. You can clean up in the morning, you can clean up at night. So all manner of jobs can fit your schedule, the number of hours you're willing to work, and the commitment you have to the market. You can show up and work one Sunday a month, and we're fine with that, or you can show up every Sunday and work several times during the day. Hey, Ken. Ken's another one of our volunteers. So that represents over 150 volunteer hours per day. And as I was talking about, it's a progressive ladder of opportunities for a volunteer. A volunteer might be out of work, might be have various levels of disability, but can show up. And if you show up and it's your first time on a Saturday meeting, you're guaranteed a job the next day. And then you can decide the level of participation that you're comfortable with. If you can only work 2 hours, we have a job for you. If you want to work 5 hours, we have a job for you. These are all volunteer stipends, of course, but you know what I mean. These downtown east side volunteers. VIPs. Thank you. Yes. Yes, they're volunteers. And in fact, that's how we honor the volunteerism. Every volunteer receives a coffee or a drink, a sandwich for their shift if their shift is more than an hour, and also small remuneration that compensates them for their time because they are VIPs. But just talking about the market, and we have a number of students actually, and I'll go through this. We have UBC involved, we have BCIT involved to try and nail down some of these numbers a little bit better, but the gross ballpark we have, and actually Dave Murray and I made this estimate over 2 years ago, and I think it's still very low, at about $10,000. And And that's really, I think it's really conservative, because if you have 200 vendors on an average, they make $50, that's $10,000. I think the average could be quite a bit higher, but again, we need to study it to find out more. And if somebody is making money, cash money under the table, they're not always willing to share with you exactly how much they make. So that's fine, we don't want to push that. But we want to get an estimate, because it's a powerful thing to think about the economic activity generated by the low-income people in this neighborhood. That, if there's 52 markets a year, there's $500,000 minimum, $500,000 of money injected into this neighborhood, going directly into the hands of poor people. That supplements their welfare, that prevents them from missing rent, that allows them to eat better, that allows them to buy better clothes in the winter, that allows them to feel better about themselves because it's a completely entrepreneurial exercise. They did it all by themselves. They didn't have to listen to a boss or sit in ridiculous job training classes or whatever else. No, whatever else is meant to do. It's all up to them. Okay, and it's a very low barrier environment. Also, it's one of the greenest nonprofits, I think, in the entire city. We estimate conservatively that there's 10 to 50 tons of waste removed from the landfill that's directed towards landfill. It's removed from that every single year. And that's huge. Because if you think about it, if you're pulling stuff out of dumpsters, that toaster oven that gets cleaned up and still works and gets sold to someone, that was going to be landfill. Every single pair of boots, every single pair of shoes, every single knick-knack or old record was destined for landfill. So it's an enormously green operation. And as well, we have a significant impact on the activity in East Hastings. The East Hastings corridor, the vendors moved to our market. Now they're in a place where they're no longer harassed. Now they're not a police issue. All of these things, all these social issues that the city pretends to care about are impacted by the street market, but yet we still sit with actually very, very minimal support. So just as I mentioned too, we now have a UBC, a master's student from planning, is actually coming in to study who are the customers, where are they from, why are they shopping at the street market, who are the vendors, how much they make per day, statistics like this, so that we can actually back this up with good hard data. We have some BCIT students that are also working on how to get alternate support for the street market, because thus far our support is solely from the City of Vancouver, and as everybody knows, it's very risky. The City of Vancouver could, after an election, for instance, immediately decide that this is not a priority for them, or that this project is should no longer be supportable. And the more we diversify our sources of income, the better. I mentioned this ladder of opportunities for volunteers, and here it is in a nutshell. There's sort of 7 gross categories of volunteers. You have 14 individual positions, making up the 50 volunteers per day. And as you go off this ladder, there's progressively higher remuneration for your hours, but more responsibility. Fairly low up the ladder, you're expected to show up, let's say, at every Saturday meeting. If you don't show up at a Saturday meeting, you don't keep that position, and so forth. So this builds up a system where the volunteers really buy into the project and participate in its governance. As well, the board of the society that runs the street market is entirely composed of volunteers and vendors in the street market, and I don't think there's a single person on the board that's not on disability or welfare. So it's a completely peer-run exercise. I'm one of the coordinators, and Yes Glory is another coordinator. Both of us receive only volunteer honorarium on Sunday during the market. You receive no pay for the coordination and the other activities that we do. Recently we received an upgrade grant from the City of Vancouver because of many of the criticisms from the VPD about stolen goods and so forth. I think the VPD loves to target the street market and say we're somehow a magnet for things, when stolen goods end up anywhere and they get taken from anywhere, and I don't think the street market has a lot to do with it, but somehow they want to blame us, But the way I look at it is, if it's really our fault, then come in and find it. Because it's like shooting fish in a barrel. It should be easier for them. Somehow they don't see it that way, that's fine. But so we instituted a system of vendor memberships, just mainly for us to make sure that the opportunity for low-income people in the downtown east side was preserved. That as the market became more and more popular, there were people coming in from Surrey and New West and even a guy from Tsawwassen. Basically, they could afford to set up in another flea market. And if they can afford to buy a $25 table or a $40 booth at the terminal flea market, then you know, they should go there, and they shouldn't take a space away from a low-income person in the downtown east side. So we require that people have residency in the downtown east side, and we make exceptions if they're in BC housing or on disability or welfare, because as we know, sometimes it's impossible to get housing in the downtown east side, and the only place you can find it is outside, so then we can make that exception. But we are absolutely adamant about preserving it as an opportunity for low-income people. We are not going to have it turn into just a tourist attraction or just any other market. And so far, the vendors have bought into this enormously. We've handed out over 400 vendor memberships. And we only have space for about 150 to 200 vendors per day. So that also shows you that a lot of vendors come casually to the market. They'll come once a month or even less. They'll collect up stuff and then they'll sell it. Or maybe they'll only go to the market if they're worried about not paying rent or if it's a 5-week welfare month, etc. So we think that there's a huge number of these casual vendors, and there could be as many as 1,000 people that sort of rely on the market, in a sense, for the extra income. We also now have, with the same upgrade grant, we purchased nice uniforms so that you can easily identify who's a street market worker and who's not. They have our street market logo on the back. And so the people walking through with vests won't be confused with the street market workers. We also have a training program where our top volunteers, the ones that have worked their way through up the ranks, and the ones that have become RPICs, can become security guards. So we offered them BST training course. We sent 5 people to the BST training course. 4 came back and passed. And we're in the process of certifying all of them. And this basically is the best way that we think to maintain security, to lower the risk of stolen goods, and also to maintain a high level of safety, because these volunteers don't understand the markets, they're from the community, they're not going to be perceived as, say, an outside force, like, for instance, Genesis that does Strathcona nearby. I mean, not to single out a single company, but I think it's very dangerous when an outside group, especially security, comes in and doesn't understand the downtown east side, and there's a lot of risk there. So that's absolutely not what we're doing. The people that will maintain security in the market will be from the downtown east side and be market volunteers. And we've made a lot of progress on the orderliness and the setup of the market. This is a picture from, I think, late August, maybe early September this year, where you can see the tarps on the left-hand side, separating the sidewalk and the bike path from the tents. That was one of the criticisms of the nearby neighbors. Oh, we can't even walk on our own sidewalk, you know. Well, boo-hoo, there's a market nearby. But we keep it free, and we have guards there that patrol the sidewalk, and they can either come in and participate in the market or walk by.
Look how straight it looks. It looks nice and neat, eh?
I know. Thank you, Max. That's very important. We also had a great project this summer where you can see those tarps on the east side were 10 feet by 6 feet, covering the canopy tents. We thought it would be a great idea to have a pop-up mural of artwork painted by local artists, Coast Salish artists, and Chinese artists, and we had a whole different group of artists, all of them low income, all of them on welfare. I think we ended up with 11 full-size paintings in the end, and the idea is that we can then sell these paintings, and in the spring or early next year we'll put them up in galleries and hopefully raise money to continue this art project and raise alternate funds for the street market. There was a long history of sort of back and forth struggle with the City of Vancouver. The City of Vancouver for a while wanted us to move out of Pigeon Park and into this small lot at 62 East Hastings. We always knew that 62 East Hastings was too small to run a market and would never fit all the vendors and would never fill the need of the neighborhood. But we took the lot anyway because, you know, free lot. And, I mean, it's true. And so ever since then, we've been trying to find a way to help the market without moving the market there. And right now, all of our market equipment, all the tents and tables and carts and everything that we use on Sunday are stored in containers on the lot. And over the summer with the art project, we created something of a creator space where the artists come and work there. If the kind of art they're doing was too noisy for their SRO rooms, or they just wanted to be outside, or they wanted to have access to the tools that we had, they could work there, and we want to continue that definitely in the spring. This is another example of the recent help that the city gave us. We got a nice covered space at 62 East Hastings, and we have a project to build vending carts for vendors that we're going to deploy also in the spring so that the vendors will have extra storage. They could possibly store the goods that they sell on Sunday at our lot in a locked cart. Then have access to that for the Sunday market. This would help them out and would declutter their SRO rooms, etc. Or especially if they're homeless and have no storage, it would be a huge benefit. And just to show you guys too, this is kind of the map of the different locations where we would or could operate. In the middle there, of course, is this little triangle is Pigeon Park. That rectangle is the Carroll Street between Hastings and Cordova. And that's where the market happens every Sunday. This is 62 East Hastings, okay, where we have our office and our storage and our artistic creator space. And we're still under negotiations with the city about whether that will be an alternate market location or whether this moves there and so forth. It's a long, complicated negotiation. It involves development permits the city makes us pay for, but it involves a large number of vendors and the community. And all I can promise is that nothing will be done secretly or in a hurry. If anybody wants to weigh in on it, they should find out when our meetings are and come to them, so forth. And that's just a map of this 58 West Hastings if the market was run there eventually. And then I'll just close up by just saying that the street market has now gotten involved with a lot of other cool projects because of our lot at 62 East Hastings. We have access to a tool share, or we were given a grant through the Hastings Crossing PIA for a tool share library. So if any of your local organizations in the downtown east side want to borrow a tool, we have a great set of 18-volt tools. We have any kind of like hand tools you could imagine, and we use that to help the artists, but also you can rent them free of charge or borrow them free of charge. Just come to 62 East Hastings and ask about it, or you can find our website and send an email and so forth. We also got involved because we have all these tools to clean up Pigeon Park. In cooperation with the BIA, we've been cleaning up Victory Square and so forth. And then, of course, because we got internet at our site at 62 East Hastings, am I running a little late? Okay, I'll just finish one or two more. And then, so we got internet at our site at 62 East Hastings. Because both Jessica and I are on welfare, we're also painfully aware that free Wi-Fi sites are rare in the downtown east side. You have to go to a coffee shop. It's very expensive to get internet yourself. So we immediately set up a free Wi-Fi hotspot when we got our own internet. And it's been incredibly successful. I never expected so many people to sign on. But I don't know if you guys can make this out. Last month, just in the last month, we've had 185 people sign up on our Wi-Fi network. The greatest thing is, if you look at these remarks, we just got these in the last couple of days. We know that our Wi-Fi signal reaches just about to the Regent, pretty close to Carnegie, and almost down to the Dodson. But, you know, who's signing on, we don't know. And these are two people that just, hey, I'm stuck in my SRO. Thank you so much for the Wi-Fi. Now they can read email. Now they can view things on the web, get information. You know, anything you can imagine doing the web. So we're really proud of that project. And we're pushing with a number of different neighborhood groups to reinvigorate this neighborhood Wi-Fi project. Because it really is a huge thing for people stuck in marginalized homes or not able to afford going to a coffee shop and have access to all the power the internet gives. So, and that's about it. Thank you very much for letting me talk on the street market. And if anybody wants to volunteer to the street market, our meetings are at 9 a.m. Show up about 8:45 at the back door of Van New at 380 East Hastings. And if it's your first time, you're virtually guaranteed a job.
Thanks, Roland. Thanks a lot.